What do you think happens when a classic real-time strategy battlefield gets mixed up with exploding islands, zombie bosses, and even the ability to pilot nukes in first person? Well, I don't know either, but there's a game called Atom Assault where all of this seems possible. It's a fast, colourful, red versus blue war, where everything feels designed to create chaos rather than calm strategic control. The big question is, does that chaos make for a compelling strategy experience, or does it hold the game back? Let's review it using the SimShack 7-pillar review system. I absolutely love RTS games, especially combat-based RTS games, and I also always hope that strategy games will feel believable, genuine, realistic. That the systems, the pacing, the battlefield logic reflects something that feels honest and genuine. Atom Assault doesn't do any of that. It does introduce some recognisable RTS ideas, like capturing territory, building buildings, securing oil reserves, expanding your influence across the map, and creating small armies. Those core mechanics are familiar and understandable. However, the overall presentation leans heavily towards exaggerated arcade design. If I'm being honest, this very much looks like a mobile game port. Now, back in the day, I would say that that's an instant dislike, but I have played a few games which were mobile transfers, I guess you call, or mobile ports, and they were actually fun, engaging games. They were well put together. They were simple, yes, but they were enjoyable. This really didn't quite tick the box on any of those fronts at all. The overall presentation leans heavily towards exaggerated arcade design. Now, there's a lot of cutscenes and a lot of sort of cinematic video elements, and I think they're brilliant. If the game reflected what the cinematic short clips look like, this game could be a lot of fun indeed. But it doesn't. It's nothing like that whatsoever. You've got things like zombie bosses, which appear sporadically. They're brightly stylized and lots of explosions everywhere. There is a humorous tone here and a bit of dialogue, but it's all kind of reducing the sense of authentic battlefield decision making, and strategic depth also feels very light indeed. It feels like you could play it with just one finger. It does feel like that's how it's designed, and it doesn't work very well. There are decisions that you need to make, but not always the sense that each one carries any kind of meaningful long-term consequence. Whilst the foundations of strategy exist, the simulation credibility never really settles. So in terms of realism, this is going to be probably one of the lowest scoring review scores for realism ever. Now, a game which doesn't have any realistic elements can still be a good game if the gameplay is fun, if it's enjoyable. And yes, Atom Assault does find some traction in this arena. There are vehicles which you can capture, but then chuck your men out and kill them randomly without ever explaining why that had happened. You can launch airstrikes, you can build bridges between islands. These moments all create bursts of engagement and sort of give you something to do, I suppose. When the multiple systems overlap, when you're pushing for territory, attacking enemy, trying to retain money income, the pace can feel lively. But mostly it just feels like a slow, pointless exercise that never really goes anywhere or does anything. It's a strange game. I really did not click with it at all. The longer I played, the more the gameplay just felt like short bursts of spectacle rather than any sort of deep, compelling strategic journey. There are moments of fun there, but they are limited, and they don't translate well into enjoyable experiences, I'm afraid to say. So I think you could probably get some idea of which direction this review is going in. It's not very realistic. The gameplay itself is not exactly enjoyable. Nothing really makes sense. A lot of the units that are supposed to be capturing gold and keeping your reserves together, they get lost or get stuck in the water. And then they've got this weird economic system where you can hold a maximum of, say, 30 coins, but you're always taking out of the gold reserve. Where that gold is going, I have no idea, but you're always taking out of the gold reserve. So if you're not spending money, you're losing gold, if that makes sense. So the whole thing just feels a bit backwards and doesn't make an awful lot of sense at all. So there's no immersion here. Immersion depends heavily on tone, and here the game chooses humour and exaggerated action over anything remotely serious. Now, for some players, maybe that will feel refreshing. For others, especially those looking for a proper strategy game, it's just going to weaken their overall perception of what this game is trying to be. When the battlefield feels more playful than dangerous, that sense of commanding a meaningful conflict between, two opposing sides becomes harder to maintain. And yes, the overall perception of the characters is that they're all stupid and it's a very fun-filled fest. But in reality, it's not very funny either. There's just nothing here. It just feels empty in every direction. The audio didn't stand out strongly during this experience either. The music was muted early on, and good things, it sounded blinking awful. The Battlefield sound design, again, did not really have a particularly memorable impression either. There's room for improvement and expansion, more intensity, more feedback, more atmosphere. But in strategy games, sound is often what reinforces pressure and urgency. And in this game, everything just felt nonchalant. I could have played it in complete silence and been equally as entertained, I think.
Building.
So I've got to say, in terms of performance, it appeared relatively stable, but there were some minor camera control glitch issues, which I noticed early on and persisted throughout my entire gameplay. Now, there's not an awful lot going on in this game. It's very basic. There's hardly any units. Why on earth it should be stuttering? Presumably, it's a bad port. There was nothing that stopped progress or broke the game completely, but there were a lot of bugs, with units getting stuck or just not going anywhere. I kept building repair engineers and sending them to units to repair guns or towers or whatever, and then I couldn't find the buggers. I took my eyes off them for 3 seconds and they just disappear. It was only when I followed one intently, when I got myself far enough up the enemy's side that I could hold them off and not worry about them sort of counter-attacking me. It was only at that point that I realised the engineers run up to these guns, immerse themselves in it, and by doing that, repair it. So I couldn't for the longest time figure out where all my engineers were going. Things like that, that's a logic bug. It was never explained very well. The tutorial was awful, badly worded, badly implemented. Just everything about this game just really fell below the par line. It just disappointed me on so many levels. Now, if there's one thing that I can say in Atom Assault's favour, is that it has a very distinctive identity. I like the look it has. They don't really utilise it very well, but the bright colours, the really distinct units, the clear environmental destruction, all helps players quickly understand what's happening across the battlefield to an extent. This clarity is valuable in RTS design, obviously. However, that same stylized approach also contributes to the reduced realism which I discussed earlier. It's very arcadey. Not even arcadey, just childlike. That's what it's very childlike. It's like plastic tanks and bottle tops for soldiers, or I don't know, what's-its for soldiers. It's just weird. The visuals are somewhat effective, but certainly not immersive, and they don't do enough, anywhere near enough, to sort of make it compelling. Atom Assault then feels like a strategy game which prioritises chaotic fun and accessibility over any kind of deep simulation or serious tactical depth. This is not a tactical game whatsoever. There are entertaining moments, I guess, a couple of clever ideas like putting guns on towers to give you further range, and it has a nice visual style which does stand out but is poorly implemented. There's no realism, which remains the biggest problem for me. You know, it doesn't have to be realistic to be a good game, but it's so unbelievably unrealistic. It just drags everything down with it. I think it's also important to remember that I had to play the demo. Although they sent me the full key, they didn't actually send me any way of activating it before launch day, so I was forced to make a demo because I had to use the demo, because I had a deadline to hit. So this first look was based on that demo build, and maybe the full version key will be significantly better, but I find that very hard to believe. Improvements to depth, immersion, audio impact could possibly arrive with the full release, but this pretty much felt like what they were going for. And what it seemed to me like they were going for was a fast, humorous, carefree RTS kind of chaos existence. I don't think this is worth keeping an eye on. I really don't. If you're chasing any kind of RTS game, there are so many better options out there. And if you like playing mobile port games, there are many out there. I've played some recently that are much better, far more entertaining than this. I'm sorry to be such a negative Nelly on this one, but there was nothing here in any way that remotely sort of ticked the box for me. So I apologise. This is not one I'm recommending at all. In fact, I recommend you stay away from this one as much as possible. If somehow you found this honest breakdown useful, then please consider liking, subscribing and supporting the channel if you can. Thanks for watching. Take care. Goodbye for now.
In a world of pixels where dreams collide, Sim UK reviews the honest guide. From racing cars to flying high, ultimate realism, take your wings to the sky. We talk about the truth and keep it real. Fact-based reviews, it's all in the field. No hype, just clarity, we break it down. Realistic simulators, the talk of the town. Real talk, Sim UK, we're here to say we keep it smooth, never lead you astray. News and previews and interviews on site. Set up guides to take your game to new heights. Honesty is the best policy, they say. Always tell the truth in every way. Yeah. From the cockpit view to the racetrack lanes, we dive deep into the code, explore the veins. Ultimate simulations that make you feel alive. Realistic graphics, man, we help you thrive. Each guide is crafted with love and care. No false impressions, just a breath of fresh air. Whether you're a newbie or a seasoned pro, Sim UK reviews is the way to go. Real talk, Sim UK, we're here to say we keep it smooth, never lead you astray. News and previews, tutorials on site. Set up guides to take your game to new heights. Honesty is the best policy, they say. Always tell the truth in every way. Yeah, we're diving in, no shortcuts here. Honest updates, that's what you'll hear. Simulations that sparkle, realism that shines. With every review, you'll know what's divine. From the mechanics to the sound of the game, Sim UK's the name. Remember the fame, we won't steer you wrong. We keep it tight, sharing knowledge in the day and the night. Yeah, got set up guides to make it a breeze. The reviews that unlock with the greatest of ease. Fact-based reviews taking the forefront. Realistic simulation, we always confront. The challenge is real, embrace what you find. Sim UK reviews just leaves you enlightened. No fluff, just facts, that's our creed. Bringing you the truth, that's how we lead. So come along with us, join the ride. Sim UK reviews, your truth by your side. With every honest word, you'll capture the thrill. Ultimate realism, The peak of the hill, from flying high to racing fast. In UK reviews, your knowledge will last. Together we can explore, uncover and learn realistic simulation. It's our turn.